So Dallas is booming. Dallas is one of the fastest growing metropolitan areas here in the nation, with over 200 corporations that have moved here since 2022. But what does that mean for you? Let's talk about the top 10 things I think you should know if you are thinking about a move to the DFW area. So the first thing you should know is that the cost of living, unfortunately, is shrinking here in the Dallas area. I've lived in Dallas for almost 20 years, and I remember when the average home price was about $150,000, and now the average home price in DFW is about $470,000. So Dallas home prices have actually remained about 40% lower than the coastal city areas, but they are actually still rising twice the national average. And the median home price was about $420,000, which is about 12% year over year. So it's definitely important to know that home prices and kind of the cost of living that people used to associate with DFW has definitely changed. Entry-level homes in the area you can still get for around $300,000, and you can actually still rent an apartment or a home in the area for around $1,800 to $2,000 a month. But that actually has gone up about 22% since 2020. So another thing you should know about moving to not only DFW, but Texas in general, is that there is a tax advantage and a tax savings by moving to the area because we do not have state income taxes. So if you make about $150,000 a year, you may save about $8,000 a year in income taxes. But if you own a home, you will pay higher property taxes in the area. So understanding the pros and cons of our no income taxes but higher property taxes is very important to note. The property taxes are the 7th highest in the nation at about 2.1%, which means that if you have a $500,000 home in the area, your property taxes can range to about $10,000. But if that same home was in California, it will be about $6,000. One of the loopholes, though, since we do have higher property taxes, is to understand your tax exemptions. There are quite a bit. The most popular one being our homestead tax exemption, which means that if you live in your home and it's not income producing, you will get about $100,000 off as an exemption to that property taxes. Texas has other exemptions for our veterans, our disabled, as well as seniors. So if you're a homeowner, make sure you are taking advantage of any of those homestead tax exemptions or tax exemptions that may be applicable. So with that being said, we've also seen an increase in our retail listings, up about 12% for commercial taxes. So with that, we're still seeing a little bit of migration to the area for corporations. So that's another thing for you to note, that we're having a decent corporate migration to the area, which means more development, more jobs, as well as additional development for homes. So 23 Fortune 500 companies call Dallas home. And just recently, the New York Stock Exchange is actually relocating here from the Chicago area. So some of the hot sectors include finance. Goldman Sachs actually added about 2,000 jobs here in DFW in the last couple of years. We've also seen an increase in tech organizations moving to the DFW area. And we also have a decent amount of governmental contractors from Northern Grumman to Raytheon and Lockheed that actually have their headquarters here also. So the fourth thing you need to know about the DFW or Dallas area is going to be the traffic infrastructure. Can I be honest? It sucks. Dallas drivers waste about 62 hours annually in traffic, which is worse than Chicago. There are a lot of highways here, a lot of tollways, and because we have an average of about 150,000 people moving here annually, the traffic just continues to increase over time. So if you're moving to the area, you should know that our traffic is bad, but our public transportation is really not as robust. But there are options if you're looking to explore other ways to commute around the area, which would be things like our DART transit system. That is something that people opt to take if they're trying to move around a little bit easier outside of our highways. Another thing you should know about the DFW area is going to be the weather. It is actually quite interesting. It's April right now, and it's kind of fairly cold for what it typically would be right now. Dallas now averages about 43 days above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 20 more days than about a decade ago. And when the winter hit, it hits. So we usually do have a freeze here every couple of years, and because we're not really used to it, it's really significant and impactful to the residents. The 2021 freeze caused about $200 billion in damage. So a couple of things to note that impacts our homeowners because of the weather is that pool installations actually went up in the area about 300% since 2020. Hail claims actually average around 12,000 per household because we have a lot of hailstorms here. And also something to note is that if you're living in the area, it's not a bad idea to have a home generator so you're prepared for those winter conditions that we actually known to be unpredictable. Another thing to know about the DFW area is how large it is. This is actually something I find quite hard to explain to people moving to the area on how big the metropolitan area actually is. DFW is larger than Connecticut, and that sprawl impacts everything from your commute to your home values. DFW is actually about 9,000 square miles, so it's really, really big. And within the metropolitan area, you have about 200 cities that you could choose from to live in. So the seventh thing to know about moving to Dallas is some of the top areas and cities to watch out for. These areas are actually seeing a 15% annual appreciation based on the leadership and some of the strategic moves that are being made. The first one is Frisco. It is actually seeing an 18% price surge and population increase for the city. Another area to watch out for is going to be Deep Ellum. It's seen an increase in its tech workers and about a 42% increase in rent. And also Las Colinas, which is a really nice and popular city here as well, is seeing quite a bit of increase to the area due to some of the corporations that are moving here. So the number 8 thing to know about Dallas is the sports. We are in the South, so they are serious about their sports, all sports. So of course, the Dallas Cowboys is headquartered here. This franchise is worth about $1.2 billion annually, and their presence here in the DFW definitely impacts a lot of development, a lot of things. We have the Dallas Cowboys that actually play in Arlington, but they're headquartered in Frisco. So because of the Dallas Cowboys moving their headquarters to Frisco, it actually impacted Frisco's values about 27%. And it actually brought over 5,000 plus jobs to the area that are kind of tied to the sports arena and the sports field, in addition to developments that include restaurants as well as shopping. So earlier we talked about one of the things you should know being the corporate tax advantages. So the number 9 thing to know is that we do have a pretty decent and booming business culture here in the area. 300 plus new jobs were created in DFW since 2020. And the corporations, of course, are taking advantage of the income tax that is very favorable to them. And our talent pipeline includes 25 plus universities, as well as some of the major corporate headquarters to this area, which includes companies like Toyota, AT&T, American Airlines, and Texas Instruments. So my number 5th item on the list was talking to you a little bit about the climate, but the number 10th is somewhat related, and it has to do with some of the severe weather that the DFW can have. So if you're new to the area, this part of the states can actually experience severe thunderstorms as well as tornadoes. So I have a lot of Californians move here who are used to things like earthquakes and a little shake, but they're not as familiar with dealing with a tornado. So the DFW area can have tornadoes, we have hailstorms, and we have quite a bit of thunderstorms. So that is definitely something that you want to be aware of if you are making and considering the DFW area your new home. So there you have it, the top 10 things that I think you should know if you are thinking about moving to the area. I really hope that this video is helpful. If you have additional questions, you can actually text me at the number that you see on your screen. And I thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.